and the terms that were thrown out in some of the speeches up here, those terms have changed consistently over time. And we still have this question about what do you call them? African American, are they African, are they black, so-and-so? None of that matters when you think about the culture that's represented by those terms. That culture is what is important. That village is what is important. And is embedded in different values. And they are not that difficult to see. If you go into my house in Tennessee, are you going to end up in the living room or are you going to end up in the kitchen? You're going to end up in the kitchen. In fact, do you take real people in the living room? Because the living room is plastic. The carpet is covered with plastic, the couch is covered with plastic, everything covered with plastic. If you come home and somebody's in the living room, you look in there, you're like, who is that? Because you know it ain't no real people. Because you don't take no real people in the living room. You take the real people in the kitchen where you go eat and, you know, mess around. This is culture. I want you to think about this. If I took all of y'all to my grandma's house, everybody in this room to my grandma's house, and we went to the door, grandma would see me and say, hey baby, what you doing? Who is all these people? Grandma, these are my friends. Well, what y'all doing? We just came down here to see you. Well, did y'all eat yet? Everybody say, yeah, we did. Does that make any difference? No. Don't make no difference. Because as soon as she get back in the house, the table going to be covered up with food. You wonder where she got all that food at. And then you visit a little bit, and she said, oh, baby, this is a good-looking boy. This is a good-looking girl. These are nice people. Where y'all staying at tonight? Well, Grandma, we're going to the hotel. Guess what Grandma say? You ain't going to no hotel, baby. You're going to shame this family. You go to the hotel. You're going to stay here. Well, look, we're going to do this. Put the girls over here in this room, and the boys, y'all going in this room. And is this your girlfriend or is this your wife? Because if this ain't your wife, then you coming in here to sleep with me, baby. And Grandma take her in the room with her. And about 2 o'clock in the morning, Grandma feeling over there to make sure you still in the bed with her. Ain't nobody sleeping in the bed together in Grandma's house unless you married each other. This is culture. Right. I want you to think about this. When I used to change my oil on my car in Tennessee, I didn't need no help, did I? But guess who was always coming to hang out with me? My cousins. And they ain't planning on changing no oil. They just had me to wrench. You know, or they open the oil up for me, or whatever, but they stand there and talk trash the whole time you change the oil. This is culture. And I want you to think about how we preserve that in a multicultural context. Because in a multicultural context, we think that there's only one way to get it right. What does privilege look like? When I work with teachers, I ask them, what does smart look like? Because smart never did look like me. Even though I was a straight A student, they never did think so. Smart never looked like me. But we have to establish the fact that smart looks like you. Smart looks like every one of you in this room. And that's what a multicultural conversation brings us to. Is that we accept that everybody has something to offer to this conversation. And when we look back at the history of African Americans, the family was never defined strictly along the lines of skin color or race. Every black family you see got people go to full range of color. Latinos. Guess what color Latino is? Anybody seen a Latino as black as me? Yeah. There are Latinos as black as me. Anybody seen a Latino look like a white person? Latinos look like white people. Native American. What color is a Native American? Same thing, all colors. So when you look at these conversations about multicultural communities and societies, how long have people of color been living together? Ever since we've been here. Native American villages were called polyglot villages. Anybody ever heard that term? Polyglot villages meant they had multiple tribes and multiple languages in the same village. We always see the demonstrations of those villages as being single tribes and single languages. They had multiple languages within the same village. And so these practices about multiculturalism, we've been practicing them for a long time in non-dominant communities. And we have to hang on to those beliefs, that culture. And black culture is very strong. Very strong. If you want to make a black man fight, who do you say something about? Mom. Talk about his mom. He'll fight. Even if he's a coward, he'll fight. Even if he's going to get his ass whooped, he still will fight. Say somebody's mama. That's a deeply held value in the black culture. It's not a deeply held value in the dominant culture. If you want to make a white man fight, talk about his mama. See, that ain't funny. Don't nobody even laugh, because it's not that funny. But in the black culture, it's deeply held value. They say black boys don't want to learn. Anybody ever heard that? I get teachers who tell me black boys don't want to learn. I tell them, if I brought a .357 Magnum pistol in this room, and I cocked it, and I gave everybody a book, and I said, we're going to read. And if you miss a word, I'm going to shoot you. How many people stay in this room? If you were risking your life to read, how many people stay in this room? How many people know that black people risk their lives to learn how to read? That you could die for learning how to read in this country. And that black people still risk their lives because they knew the value of reading. They still risk their lives. You gonna tell me that culture does not value education? That culture values education and it knows the meaning of it. Your knowledge is your power. Your knowledge is your power. And it makes a direct translation. It doesn't say knowledge might be power, does it? It doesn't even say knowledge equals power. It says knowledge is power. So if you got knowledge, what do you automatically have? Power. You automatically got power.
I write as well, and this is what I'll close with.
It's dedicated to my grandmother. I wrote it on Thanksgiving because every time I start having a lot of food, I always think about my grandma. It's called Making Bread. My grandma would smile and get up at 4 a.m. before day came and mix her small ingredients to make us bread. She would add barrel rainwater to the dusty flour and fold in a measure of lard. She would add a pinch of salt and a smaller pinch of Clabber Girl baking powder, the little white girl still on the side of the can. With old hands, she would knead and roll out the rich dough and then cut out the rounded biscuits with an open can. She would place them in the oven, hot now from her kindling, and the fire she had started with scrap wood. She would make bread for us children every single morning, long before day. I could still hear her humming old songs and her feet scuffing along the floor. I yet remember the rhythms and the tunes are familiar even now, though I never learned the words. 80 years old, my grandma had learned how to gracefully manage underneath the heavy burdens of being black and being woman. Privilege had rarely extended to her, and she knew it better than anyone. But that never made her bitter, and it never stopped her from loving us. The white man's ice is always colder than the black man's ice, she told me. And the white man's sugar is always sweeter than the black man's sugar, she said. Seeing this world through clear eyes, she quietly defined herself underneath the burdens and lived the most powerful truth. Nobody defines you but you. She defied expectations and held a sense of self, of black and woman, proud, loving, and strong. Being black and being woman, she carried both burdens for an entire lifetime, yet she still made bread for us children every morning. Refusing to burn daylight, she would wake me at 5 a.m. and fill me up with both bread and love. Being a frightened little black boy, my grandma hugged me often and told me I was smart, pretty, and a good boy. I yet marvel at the wisdom and love in an old black woman who shined her light and goodness and made bread for me. She made bread for us children every morning before day and hummed her beautiful songs and lived an amazing life. My grandma was a radical and revolutionary, undermining generations of racism and refuting the claims of privilege by making bread. Thank you.